So you want to own a parking garage. You have been inside one. Concrete ramp, yellow paint, low ceiling, a ticket from a machine. $40 for 3 hours. Nobody working the booth after 6. No inventory, no spoilage, nothing to steal. The cars park themselves and the money comes out of a slot. You look at that and you think one thing. That is a machine that prints money. And you are right. A single space downtown can gross several $1,000s a year. There is no product. There is no staff at night. The building is a concrete box that never gets returned or refunded, but there is a question worth asking on the way out. Why is that concrete box sitting on the most expensive land in the city? Every block around it has a tower on it. Offices, hotels, apartments, all of them earning many times more per square foot. And in the middle of that, deliberately, somebody built a place to leave a car. Nobody does that by accident. Here is the reframe that explains the entire industry. A parking garage is not a parking business. It is a land bank, and the cars are paying you to hold it. The income is not the return. The income is what covers the cost of waiting. So let us build one properly. What it costs per space, what a space earns, and what the operator actually takes. Then the part that never appears in the brochure. Because the most famous parking deal in America made its buyers billions, and it was signed in 72 hours. Start with the ticket price and start with the comparison that frames everything. A surface parking lot costs roughly $3,000 to $8,000 per space. Asphalt, striping, a machine, some lighting. A structured garage costs 5 to 10 times that. The industry tracks this closely. Median construction cost per space in a structured garage broke $20,000 for the first time in 2018. By 2023, it was $29,000, a rise of 47% in 7 years. Today, an above-grade garage runs roughly $20,000 to $45,000 per space. Below grade, once you add excavation, shoring, and waterproofing, it runs $45,000 to $75,000. And in some markets, it reaches $100,000 for a single space. For one parking space, underground, which is more than the median price of a house in several American states. And a garage is enormously inefficient with space. You need roughly 300 to 350 square feet per car once you include ramps and drive aisles. Only about half of a garage is actually parking. The rest is the machinery of getting cars up and down. So a 500 space structure lands somewhere between $10 and $15 million. Add soft costs, which run another 15 to 30% on top of hard construction. And add time, 9 to 18 months above ground, 12 to 24 or more if you are digging. Now hold that against the alternative because this is the decision at the center of the business. That same land could hold apartments or offices or a hotel. You are spending $15 million to build the least valuable legal use of the most valuable land you could have bought. That is either a mistake or it is the entire strategy. It depends on why you did it. Now the revenue, and there are 3 quite different ways to earn it. The first is transient parking, hourly and daily. The highest rate per car, the most volatile, and entirely dependent on whatever is happening around you. The second is monthly contract parking, commuters and residents. Lower rate per space, but predictable, and it fills the building overnight. The third is events. A stadium, an arena, a theater. Enormous revenue for a few hours, several times a month, and nothing in between. The best garages blend all 3 because they peak at different hours. Office workers leave at 6, theater patrons arrive at 7. Then the operating side, which surprises people who expect it to be passive. Most owners do not run the garage. They hand it to a professional operator, and there are 2 structures. In a management agreement, the operator runs the building for a fee, and the owner keeps the revenue and carries the risk. In a lease, the operator pays the owner a fixed rent and keeps whatever is left. The operator takes the risk, and the owner gets a bond-like income. That second structure is worth remembering because it turns a garage into something that looks exactly like a rental property. And a rental property is valued on a multiple of its income. Now the cost nobody budgets properly, and the first one is structural. A garage is a concrete building that spends its entire life soaked in water, road salt, and vehicle exhaust with cars driving on the roof. Salt attacks the steel reinforcement inside the concrete. The steel expands as it corrodes and cracks the slab from the inside. Ongoing maintenance runs somewhere near 50 cents to $2 per square foot annually. But structural restoration is a different category entirely. And it arrives in decades, not years, in the form of a single enormous bill. Then insurance, then lighting, which runs all night, then elevators, then security, then the payment technology, which gets replaced every few years. And one cost that has arrived recently and is not going away, electric vehicle charging. Tenants increasingly expect it, and installing it means new electrical service, conduit, and equipment that dates quickly. Now the invisible machine, and to see it clearly, we need to look at the most instructive parking transaction ever made in the United States. In 2008, the city of Chicago was short of cash and did not want to raise property taxes. It owned 36,000 parking meters, not garages, but the same asset in its purest form, priced access to scarce urban space. Those meters were bringing the city about $23.8 million a year. The city leased them for 75 years to a consortium led by Morgan Stanley with Allianz and the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Abu Dhabi. The price was $1.157 billion paid at once. The city council approved the deal after roughly 72 hours of review. Now watch what happened next, because this is the whole lesson of the industry. The new owners raised the rates, they extended paid hours, they extended paid parking into areas that had never had it. By 2019, the system was generating $138.7 million a year. By 2024, $160.9 million. The city had been collecting $23 million from the same meters. The private owners collected nearly 7 times that. Through 2024, the deal had produced about $1.97 billion. The investors had made their entire purchase price back, with roughly 60 years still to run. Projected total collection over the full lease is around $12 billion on an asset bought for $1.15. The city's own inspector general concluded in 2009 that Chicago had been underpaid by, conservatively, $974 million. And then there is the clause. The city must compensate the owners for every meter taken out of service, for any reason. Construction, a street festival, a parade, a new bus lane. In 1 year, those payments alone added nearly $27 million to the owner's revenue, which means the contract does not just cost Chicago money. It makes bus lanes, bike lanes, and wider sidewalks financially prohibitive until 2083. The city sold its ability to redesign its own streets and did not appear to notice it was doing so. And the meters were not the only thing sold. Chicago separately privatized 4 downtown underground garages. Those 4 buildings alone took in almost $35 million in a single year. In July of this year, the lease came up for sale again. Stone Peak bid $2.5 billion for the remainder. More than double what the whole thing sold for in 2008 for a shorter term. The city council balked. Now, what does this actually teach a parking investor? 2 things, and they are the core of the business. The first is that this asset is a very long duration annuity, and almost nobody prices it as one. Chicago valued 75 years of revenue against a 1-year budget hole. The buyer valued it as a perpetuity in a city where land only gets scarcer. Both parties looked at the same meters. Only one of them was doing the correct arithmetic. The second is that the pricing power is real. Rates went up and drivers kept paying because there was nowhere else to put the car. That is the whole product, not concrete. Proximity plus the absence of an alternative. If this breakdown is useful, subscribe. It genuinely helps. Now the numbers. 2 scenarios and they are almost the same building. Scenario 1. You buy an existing 400 space garage in a secondary downtown for $12 million. 250 monthly contracts at $180. That is $540,000 a year. Transient and event parking adds another $460,000. Gross revenue, $1 million. Operating expenses run around 35% once you include the operator fee, insurance, utilities, maintenance, and property tax. Net operating income, $650,000. On $12 million invested, that is about 5.5%, which is a perfectly respectable, deeply boring commercial real estate yield. And if that is all you wanted, the business ends there and it works. Scenario 2, same building, same $12 million, different reason for buying it. You bought it because the land is zoned for 180 residential units, and the city is reviewing its downtown plan next year. For 4 years, the garage covers its own debt service, its taxes and its insurance, and returns a modest yield while you wait. Then the rezoning passes, and the land is worth $28 million to a residential developer. You did not run a better garage, you ran the same garage and sold the dirt underneath it. The gap between those 2 outcomes is $16 million, and none of it came from parking cars. That is why the operating yield on garages is often unremarkable, and why sophisticated buyers accept it anyway. They are not being paid to park cars, they are being paid to wait, and the cars are covering the cost of waiting. Now, the thing that is currently reshaping all of this, and it is moving faster than most people realize, for almost a century, American cities required developers to build a minimum number of parking spaces with every building. 1 space per apartment, 4 spaces per golf hole. The numbers were largely invented and rarely tested. Research on mid-sized European cities found those mandates produced 50 to 100% more parking than was actually needed. The man who spent a career demonstrating this was an economist called Donald Shoup, and for decades, almost nobody in city government listened, and then cities started deleting them. Minneapolis and St. Paul eliminated their parking minimums entirely in 2021. Austin did it citywide in 2023. Baltimore in late 2025. By last August, more than 3,700 cities across 22 countries had reduced or eliminated parking requirements. Over 100 removed them completely. Understand exactly what that does to your asset because it cuts in both directions. It removes the legal floor under parking demand. Nobody is forced to lease your spaces anymore. But it also removes the requirement to build new competing garages, which means no new supply. And most importantly, it makes converting your garage into housing dramatically easier. So the operating business gets harder and the land underneath gets more valuable and more liquid at the same moment, which is exactly what you would expect if the land was always the asset. So who is this business for? It is not for someone who wants to run a parking business. That yield is fine and it is not exciting. It is exposed to office vacancy, to remote work, and to every transit improvement a city makes. It is for whoever can hold urban land patiently, cover the carrying cost from the cars, and wait for the zoning to change. That requires capital that is not in a hurry, and it requires being right about the direction of a city over 10 or 20 years. And it is worth ending on the Chicago lesson because it applies to far more than parking. The city sold 75 years of a growing monopoly-priced income stream to cover one budget year. The buyers were not smarter about parking. They were simply the only party in the room measuring the asset in decades. So the next time you take that ticket from the machine and drive up the ramp, look at what surrounds you. Every building on that block is worth more per square foot than the one you are parked in. Somebody knows that, and they are perfectly happy to let you keep paying them to wait